Welcome back to the podcast that makes you faster. It's the first episode of season number 2, or if you like it the other way, it's episode number 9 in total of the Swiss inSide podcast. And right in front of me at the microphone, there is the man, the myth, the legend, Jean-Paul Vallard. Hey JP, how are you, man?
Hey Daniel, hello everyone listening. Keen, happy, driven to kick off an exciting 2024. Huge amounts happening in the world of Swiss side and around. So I think we've got a lot to talk about in the coming podcasts. But today you've got special topics for us to discuss. So I'll hand over back to you.
Yeah, true. Today we are going to talk about our triathlon roster with some of the old athletes from the past years and some new athletes. And we're going to talk about new races, new race series, opportunities, highs and lows maybe for athletes. And let's start right away, I guess. As I said, we continue to work with most of the athletes from the past years, like Laura Philipp, like Lisa Norden, Patrick Lange, or Daniela Bleymehl. But we also have new athletes like Jason West and Fabian Meusen from Switzerland. How is it to work with all these different talents?
Yeah, it's really exciting. First of all, I really like the continuation and the trust that the athletes have in us, and that's really important thing for me and the Swiss side team. Is we always say to the athletes, we're not interested in short-term collaborations. We want to invest in the athletes, help them get faster, and then together really, enjoy the successes of that. And of course, what we bring in terms of the aero optimization, not just the products, not just the wheels and other products we bring, but that's always a process. You go into the wind tunnel in year 1 and year 2 and year 3, and you always make these continuous improvements. And great examples. Daniela Bleymehl, it's amazing with her. Every year we find more performance, and you think after 5-6 years there's nothing more to be found. And last year we found 17 watts. Which was insane. And, she then showed what that could do in Rapperswil-Jona and of course, Challenge Roth, where she broke the world record. And look, working with these athletes, for me, first of all, it's an honor. I'm an amateur athlete. I enjoy triathlon. I enjoy cycling. And, I've done many, many triathlons. But of course, my level is different, and to see how these athletes approach training and approach life and approach racing is really, I don't know, it's always eye-opening and always, really, really special.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I always find super interesting is, we read about these athletes. Daniela Bleymehl, whatever, 5 times world champion in the long distance, 5 times world championship in the middle distance. You think that these are sort of like, superstars and whatever, but they're just humans. They're just humans in the end, like you and me. And that's also the great thing. When we build a long-term relationship with them, it's more than just a transaction of here are some wheels and here's a wind tunnel test. You get to know each other and you build trust and that's the special part for me. I really like working with people. And athletes are very passionate, driven people, and like me in many senses as well. So, it's just special working together as a team with a common goal to maximize performance. And that's great.
That sounds super exciting, and it's, I think, a totally different experience to get to know these athletes so much better and see all the behind-the-scenes stuff, because you only normally see them, on Instagram, fair enough, but on Instagram you just show all the good things normally, and you do see them in races, and then sometimes they perform well and everything's cool, and sometimes they don't perform well, but nobody really knows what's all behind the scenes, what's happening. And I think that's a totally different kind of relationship.
Absolutely. And this is where I say this long-term relationship is so important. Like Rasmus Svenningsson, Swedish athlete, he's had some real troubles with injury, with mental health. and really in terms of being race fit in a head sense, in a body sense, and whatever. And it's really important that we support those athletes, and we're there along the way in good and bad. So like you say, Instagram's this, perfect world, and it's very, very far from the real reality. These athletes, they have their highs and lows. And of course, after a bad race, we have exchanges with them, with their coaches, to try and understand what happened. How can we support? And that's really special, because, relationships are not just about the highs, it's about the whole journey. And so, in terms of what's special for me about working with athletes, it's the whole package. We don't expect athletes to win all the time. We expect athletes to have highs and lows, and we want to be a part of that journey. And that's special. Where I'd say, I don't know how other brands work, because I'm not another brand. But I know for us, we want very much more than just a transaction, than just a number. We want a relationship. And I think both sides get more out of the relationship when it's like that.
Yeah. I think the biggest downside we had in the past years in the world of triathlon was when athletes couldn't compete because of injuries or something. They lost their sponsors, and they of course had no chance to fight for prize money, which is super important for some or maybe all of the athletes to make a living. And that leads us right to the next point I wanted to discuss with you, because now we have different race series, new races, new opportunities, new prize money for all of the athletes. Just for a little context, we do have the Ironman Pro Series, which is a series that takes place besides the normal Ironman racing series. And the pros don't have to sign in or something. If they want to do these races or take a part in the Ironman Pro Series, they just start in these specific races. And then in the end of the year, there will be a 1.7 million prize money that will be allocated between all of the pro athletes that participated in the Pro Series, which is a lot of money.
And I think it's great, because I think this is one thing that's been missing a lot in triathlon in general. And, I think Ironman, in my opinion, hasn't done enough in terms of they do a lot of races, they collect a lot of money as a company, and the stars of those races are the pros. And I don't think the pros saw enough of a share of that money. And this is where I'm a big fan of what the PTO has done in terms of they've really disrupted this triathlon space in bringing big races, attracting big athletes, but of course by offering strong prize money pots. And I think that's really important. And of course, there's also now the PTO Tour this year with the new T100 races. And maybe you want to just tell us about that.
Oh yeah, of course. I'd love to. That's a super exciting race series, because you have 8 races throughout the season, and we have 20 women, 20 pro women, and 20 pro men that signed in to the series, and they have to take part in at least 5 of these races to be able to fight about the first 3 spots in this series in the grand final. Which nobody knows about that much at this moment, because they're not saying anything about the place where it's going to take place and where it is. But the PTO distance is something special. I guess most of the listeners do know the distance, but you have a 2K swim, an 80K bike, and an 18K run. And that's even less than a half Ironman, like a the classic 70.3 distance. And I thought about the race or the race series prior to this podcast, and I was like, okay, these are just more races added to the calendar of the pro athletes. So it's going to be a struggle maybe for them to take part in more races. Like they want to compete in Kona, they want to compete in Nice, they want to be at the highest level in Roth, they want to be at the highest level in the PTO series to make prize money. And it's some kind of an opportunity, but also it's I don't know, it's a thin line. I guess.
Look, it's going to be a lot of racing, but what I really like about the concept, first of all, that's the distance. So that's like that's the prime race distance for that series. So all the top stars, and they've attracted a lot of the top stars, will be competing on that distance. So it's not like kind of 70.3 in Ironman, which is kind of seen as a lower category to the full Ironman distance. This T100 is the distance, and for the pros, it's a distance that they can do every weekend if they had to. Okay, they wouldn't want to do it every weekend, but like it's possible. The recovery times for the top level pros for doing such a distance are absolutely manageable, and so it just gives more advantage for them to race. It's another series where there's really strong prize money pots, and that's really important because I really want to highlight from my side, these athletes do this for a living, and they have to earn their living somehow from doing this. And up until now, let's say if you're in the top, if you're on the podium, you can earn some money. Sure, if you're a Daniela Reef or a Young Frodeno or a Patrick Lange, you can probably earn pretty good money because you can compete regularly and hit podiums regularly and win the big races, and so you can earn some decent money. But for the rest of the triathletes who are finished, the pros who are maybe off the podium, finishing fifth, you cannot earn a living from that. And these people, they have to fund their life, they have to fund their training, they have to fund their training support crew, whether it be nutritionists, doctors, physios, coaches, and then they have to go to these races and they have to pay for the travel, the flights, the hotels, the bike cases that they have to travel with, the spare kit. It's really expensive. And I'd say, the vast majority, 80% don't earn money or just scrape by out of this. And of course, then they rely on the brand, the sponsors. And we also have to be clear, there are big brands, like Specialized, like Canyon, like SRAM Group, who can afford to sponsor athletes with cash money. And then there are a bunch of smaller brands and smaller companies. And, people often think, Swiss Side, we're a big brand. The truth is we're very much a growing brand. We're very much a present brand, but we're still a small company. And we can't pay athletes big amounts of cash. So, we have bonus systems. Certainly the top athletes, Patrick Lange, the Laura Phillips, we do provide them with the cash financial support. But the main value that we bring is in terms of the performance of our products and the performance of the value add that we bring in terms of making them faster with aerodynamics and wind tunnel testing, which also costs a hell of a lot of money for us to do, let's be clear. But the truth is, we're not the big contributor when it comes to cash in terms of helping them live and earn a living. And to cut to the chase, I think it's really great that there's more opportunity for the athletes to win prize money. And in the end, get it back from these big race organizers who are earning a lot of money from these races. And you go back to Ironman now, compared to when I started doing Ironman racing in early 2000s, I remember Ironman Zurich. I can't exactly remember what I paid for entry there, but it was, I don't know, 300, 400 Swiss francs, 300, 400
I just want to say
at the time.
About this.
Yeah. And nowadays it's over 1,000 euros, and there are double the amount of starters. Nothing has changed in terms of what you get as an athlete. Actually, you get less. You get less in the out on the course. You get less when you come in after in the after race area. I remember one year at Zurich Ironman, they had spa bars that you could get into, and the expo was massive, and it was a really big event. And nowadays, they're asking 3-4 times the amount of money for starting. They have 2.5 times the number of starters. Where's all the money going? And the answer is it's going to the owners of Ironman, to the shareholders, which is fine and fair enough, but there has to be a justified return to the stars of the show, who are the athletes. And so what's great about the PTO is they've effectively forced Ironman to bring this Ironman Pro Series, which has got a prize money pot, so that the athletes can earn more money. So I think it's a great thing. And I think for all of us fans of triathlon. It's also great because we're going to see a lot more racing. We're going to see a lot more action, and
True.
it's going to be exciting. So I think it's a very positive thing.
Yeah, that's true. In case of recovery, we saw it last year as Christian Blumenfeld did back-to-back races with these PTO races. He came from Olympic distance races or qualification races, and then 1 week later, or was it not 1 weekend where he flew from one race to another to compete within 48 hours? Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, but it's also super interesting because the full distance, challenge or Ironman athletes have to be trained to be efficient and optimal on that full distance. And like you said before, this PTO tour distance, the T100, is actually even slightly shorter than an Ironman 70.3 middle distance race.
Yeah.
And those type of races, you need to be explosive, you need to be fast as well. It's not just about pure endurance, it's also about speed. And you need to train differently to perform there. So I think it's really interesting because, especially in the past, as a middle distance athlete, the big money was in long distance Ironman. That's where it was. And now there's good money in this middle distance as well. So I think it's really exciting, and it's going to be interesting to see which athletes can perform on both distances, on the middle distance or the shorter distance and on the full Ironman distance. So I think it's really exciting.
Super excited to see Laura Philipp this season because she signed in for the PTO 100 series, and she's also on fire for Nice. So, yeah. And as you said, it's fun to watch because it's not so long like the classic Ironman distance.
So perhaps actually a little bit of insight when it comes to sponsoring from my perspective and how it works for us as a brand. So traditionally, we get the visibility and the return on investment from the long distance Ironman races. So our sponsoring has been heavily focused on those athletes who are competing on the full distance. So your Patrick Lange, your Laura Philipp, your Daniela Reeve, and so on. But the 70.3 distance, let's say if an athlete's purely doing Olympic and 70.3 distance, it's been a lot less attractive for us because we just don't get the visibility that we want. However, now with these PTO Tour T100 races, and of course Ironman having to react, these middle distance races are getting a lot more exposure, which means for us as a brand, it's also really attractive. So it allows us to open up our sponsoring opportunities also to athletes who are not focused on the long distance. And to jump back into that, we had a fantastic long-term relationship with Jan van Berkel as our lead Swiss athlete for many years. And he's, of course, retired from racing with his dream fairy tale finish, winning Ironman Switzerland last year. And Jan has connected us with Fabian Moysen, who is a great new young up-and-coming Swiss talent. But he's mainly focused on these shorter distances, on the middle distance at the moment.
We saw him competing in Super League and in shorter distance, like you said.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. And so, there's it's really good for us as a brand to sort of really also to be able to commit to such an athlete because we don't have that pressure to say, get that visibility on the long distance. And so it's good for us. It's good for him. It's good for athletes in general. And then, of course, Jason West, we're super, super stoked to have him on board as part of our team next year as a new addition. And, Jason's, of course, going to focus on the long distance as well, but he's been really strong in the PTO. He was third in the PTO rankings last year, so he's one of those athletes that can really mix it up on this middle distance. So again, a justification for us to invest in him because we'll get the visibility, and we have to be clear that the athletes are there not just for our passion. We need to get visibility as a brand in social media, in the general media overall. And so, again, these new format of triathlon racing with the PTO T100 middle distance, shorter distance, and the 70.3 middle distance is really great because it's good for the athletes, it's good for us, it's good for the sport. So yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of showdowns this year. Nice,
absolutely.
Roth, Kona, the grand final, or even the whole PTO series with so many crazy spots there in like Miami or Las Vegas and stuff. Like, triathlon. It seems like that the world of triathlon is finally getting the attention it deserved all these years.
Absolutely. Like I'm always stunned. You see tennis, pro tour tennis. Like the money that's in that sport is crazy, and of course they're all professional athletes. Of course, they're all training at the top level. But relatively speaking, look at the pain that a Ironman long distance athlete endures and the training that's required for that. They have to be expert swimmer, biker, runner. Yeah. They have to be invested in the technology, in the aerodynamics, in everything. And the disproportionately small return that they can earn in terms of money is crazy. So like you say, I think it's great that triathlon is getting the attention it deserves and that the athletes have new opportunities to earn a living from the amazing things that they do.
What do you think? Will there be some innovations this year too in the races? Because in the past years we saw some crazy stuff, like Joe Skipper mounted 2 aero bottles on his cockpit, or a lot of athletes like Magnus Ditlev put bottles into this suit to be more aerodynamic. What do you think? Is there something new around the corner?
Look, what's been really interesting for us is, of course, we've as say aerodynamic experts, we've been exploring this stuff for a long time. And the one with Joe Skipper with the bottles behind the arms is really funny, or above the arms in his case. It's quite funny because we tested these kind of solutions, I think, back in 2018 with Patrick Lange in the wind tunnel. But we were like, no, this is far too extreme. It's not going to be allowed from a rules perspective, because the rules do stipulate that you can't just have devices whose only purpose is aerodynamic benefit. But it seems like the doors have been opened to do what you want. Like you said last year, we saw, bottles that were empty, even some sort of frames in the chest area to puff out these suits. And that was a really strong gain on everybody in the wind tunnel and, of course, out on the road. So for me, it's a bit of a free-for-all now. So I know that, with our wind tunnel program this year, we're going to do some exploration with our athletes. And, I think you need to be prepared to just bring things to races. And okay, if they say no, they say no. And if they don't, then you have an advantage. But to be honest, on that sense, I would really welcome that the authorities or the race organizers are more clear on the rules and they set very clear expectations about what is and isn't allowed, because I do feel it's a little bit too much of a free-for-all at the moment. But of course, this is going to be difficult because you've got 3 different series that all run with their own rules effectively. So, you've got Ironman that has their rules that are very open. You've got PTO and you've got Challenge. And, what are the rules? When the chest bottle topic came up, there were some races where they were saying, no, this is not allowed because it's not permitted under the World Triathlon regulations. But then it was allowed and then it wasn't. Like, it was really unclear. So I'd say there's a big gray zone at the moment. And so to answer your question, will we see innovations and weird stuff out on the race course this year? We probably will, because I think people are going to keep pushing the boundaries until someone says stop.
Yeah, I remember as I saw this really big aero helmet, this from POC, that looked like the helmet from Darth Vader. Yeah, as I saw it the first time, I thought like, oh my god, what's going to be the next one? Like a super long aero helmet, looking like from the Alien movies, way back to your I don't know, to the seat or something. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Let's see
that's a good idea. Look, we might try an Alien helmet this year. We'll go and print something. We'll see what it does.
We said it first.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's round up this podcast with your favorite story with one of our athletes.
Oh God, favorite story with one of our athletes. Gosh, there's been many. Some I can't talk about. When athletes get angry and unhappy about something. But no, there's been so many great. Like I said earlier, and we have a nice relationship, a long-term relationship with all our athletes. So we get to know each other and we open up. And I don't know. I really enjoyed the years we worked together with Jan van Berkel. He was always really open and helped us a lot with our R&D. So he would often do extra wind tunnel tests or extra tests with us to help us do things. And we were doing some suit development at some point, and we made a special suit that had a lot of wool tufts sewn into it. So these are little strings all over the suit, so we can see what the airflow is doing in different situations. And then we film in with high-speed cameras and in the wind tunnel. And it's really funny because it looks like a plucked chicken. And so this thing became known as the chicken suit. And I remember I was, filming Jan, and I was like, "Hey Jan, you look like a chicken." And he's like, and I was filming him. And I don't know if we ever put that on Instagram, but it was highly funny. I think it was a little bit too embarrassing.
Oh, we should put it on Instagram.
We should do. We'll ask Jan now that he's no longer a professional athlete, if we can post the chicken suit video. So that was a fun one. Another good one was an athlete that we're no longer working with this year, Daniela Bleymehl. We worked with her for many years. And at one of the wind tunnel tests, she said, what speed can this wind tunnel go to? And we said, well, it can do 180 kilometers an hour. And she's like, well, I want to experience 180 kilometers an hour. So at the end of the day, we took the bike out of the wind tunnel. And then we all got up there on the test, in the test section with a rope. And it was Isaac Papadopoulos, the photographer, videographer, Daniela Bleymehl and myself, and we're all tied to this rope. And then wind tunnel operator slowly turned the wind tunnel up to full speed. And I tell you what, I almost couldn't stand. Like, it was borderline getting blown off your feet. So that was fun. So yeah, Daniela Bleymehl at 180 kilometers an hour. None of us were very aerodynamic, I can tell you.
Do we have video or photo material from this?
Actually, we do have it. There is a video. I'm going to dig it out. We can put that on the. We can put that on the socials as well.
Yeah, we really should do. Crazy. Thanks for all the insights in this first episode of the new year. We are, I guess, super hyped and super excited for all the races and for the athletes that we are working with. So we will, of course, dedicate full episodes to our other athletes, like our para-athletes, Florina Riegling and Marcel Hoek. And of course, you heard in the end of the past year and in the beginning of the new year that we are working with Decathlon AG Desert La Mondiale, and that's super exciting, and we are going to dedicate a full episode to this as well. So make sure to follow us on all our socials, like, write, comment, and subscribe to us on Instagram, on YouTube, on nearly every platform you can imagine. And I'm looking forward to talk to you again soon, JP. Have you anything to add, or?
No, it's going to be a really exciting triathlon season. It's going to be a really exciting road racing season. It's going to be a really exciting para-athletic season. Of course, we've got the Olympics this year. We've got the UCI World Championships in our hometown here in Zurich, down the road. It's going to be a fantastic year. There's going to be a lot of great content we're going to bring. So looking forward to sharing some insights with you in the near future. Thanks everyone for listening, and you will hear from me again soon.